Good morning, I'm Michael from Monster Gaming, and if you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. So it's Halloween week, so kicking Halloween week off with my favourite piece of Dungeons & Dragons ever, the Ravenloft Realm of Terror box set. So originally published in 1990, it was a box set that was launched for Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition. Ravenloft already becoming popular in the Quest, Ravenloft, and Ravenloft 2, The House on Griffin Hill. So these two came out in the early 80s, and then a few years later we get this, the Ravenloft box set. And it is a box set jam-packed with all sorts of accessories, the like that you wouldn't see from Wizards of the Coast today. So open it up. These actually, I didn't realise were in here. These are some Spellfire cards when TSR decided to get in on the customizable card game. These happen to be Ravenloft ones, so let's just put them to one side because I didn't know they were there. And then this is the Ravenloft rule supplement manual book, and it's brilliant. So already on the front we've got Stran von Zarevich kind of in full Hammer Horror vampire blood-sucking pose. Great artwork here. And then as we flick through the book, it is massive. So it is like 144 odd pages. Some lovely lime black and white art, and it really goes into the gothic roots of the Ravenloft Demiplane of Dread. So for anyone that doesn't know, the Demiplane of Dread is where kind of the most villainous people are granted domain, but they're also trapped there, never to escape, surrounded by mists. They have their own little realms of terror, and inside them they have utter rulership, but they can never leave. So this book added loads and loads of stuff. So for starters, good and evil doesn't work quite the same way, because otherwise it would probably be a bit too easy to guess who is good, who is evil. And it moves very much away from dungeon crawl to instead kind of, how would I best describe it? So lots more and more social encounter-based stuff that obviously can potentially lead to combat, but more kind of detective in, more kind of role-playing. I felt like this was the first time for me anyway that it moved quite so much away from the dungeon crawls that I'd been used to. And here it talks a lot about fear and horror checks. So fear when something, is scary, and horror when something's, utterly gory and terrifying. And characters have to make these fear and horror checks. And should they fail, they, something terrible happens to them. The idea is, though, that you can completely ignore all of the rules if your players do the role play piece. Which again was still a bit of a newy thing back in the very early 90s, late 80s. So anyway, so pages on werbeasts and vampires, talking a little bit about lycanthropy, how vampires age, but everything works slightly differently in this book. Curses, telling the future. And then as it moves through, spells are now different because everything operates differently within the Demiplane of Dread. Familiar, but different. And then it goes on to talk about the lands of the core, which I'll come to. And it gives a brief, there you go, there's a nice picture of the original map of Ravenloft. These domains would shift and change over time, especially after the Grand Conjunction. And these are all realms of terror that are all squidged together into one giant continental landmass. And these black lines sort of like donate the domain, and within that, each of these, there's a Dark Lord trapped. And to be fair, they then published pretty much a story, at least one quest, for the majority of all of these. So each one getting its own quest over the years. And then things changed, and actually some of the Dark Lords changed. They got ousted by even more villainous characters. And this is the breakdown of all the domains. Actually, it's all quite good. It's all It's a very, very good box set. But actually, what's more interesting is the Who's Doomed. So in here, we also have the statistics for all the different domain leaders. So there's Aslan, Lord of Darkon, who's a lich. It goes all the way through. There's a couple of good guys. I think Van Helsing's in here. Maybe he's not. No, it looks like all Dark Lords or their assistants. Oh yeah, there you go. There's Rudolf van Vichten and Strand von Zarovich, super vampire. But what I really like about these old ones is, oh, before we get there, we've got the monstrous compendium entries at the back. Always like those. It's a shame they're not punch out sheets, because then you could put them in your ring binder of monstrous compendium stuff. But what I really like is it comes with 24 cards. Now these cards all have pretty much a glorious piece of artwork on the front, and then some of them are, I suppose it was instead of putting a DM screen in, but we've got Tables of Terror, and then this one, another nice piece of art, and then on the back we've got the list of altered magic, and then monsters and militia, and monsters that are lurking in Ravenloft that you can use out of your other monstrous compendium books. And then we start to get some maps as well. So this one here, if I turn it over, I think there's the inn from the old Carcaton Inn, which is in Feast of Goblins, I think. And then this looks like some sort of manor house. What's this? Ah, an estate for another one of the Dark Lords. This one looks like a castle-y church. What have we got? Oh, it's a temple for another one of the Dark Lords. So it comes with loads. So even though you get no more than a page or two on a lot of the Dark Lords and their realms, actually it gives you some quite good maps for where they live and where they stay. And again, I don't feel like you get anywhere near as much in the new Wizards of the Coast stuff as you do as the TSR did back in the day. That is one of the Rashka temples, I want to say. Oh, looks like Aslan's castle. Another castle. Castle Forlorn, filled with ghosts. That's another very, very good box set. Markov Estate. So they're not detailed maps, but it's still better than you get anywhere else. Oh, and this I think is the monastery on the side of the mountain. Yeah, this is the monastery on the side of the mountain from on Markovia, which eventually becomes a separated island. Oh look, we've got even more still. What else we got? Another estate. That's a very impressive castle. Oh, that's very cool. Recognised it as Strand straight away. And then we have some kind of family portraits. So these are the rhinos. I think they might be were-rats, are they? Yep, they're were-rats. And then this is Timothy. I think they could be ghosts. No, they're werewolves. Not sure what these guys are going to turn out to be. No, they're just humans that are evil. Weatherme family. Oh, apparently they're good guys. And then I have no idea who these two, but I quite like their family portraits. There you go. But again, we've already got 24 cards. We've already got a 144-page rulebook. We've got this see-through hex grid map tool, which is quite good. But then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 absolutely massive maps. So what should we do first? What's this one? So this one looks like a map of the core lands of Ravenloft. So all the different realms prior to the Grand Conjunction, which happens at the end of the first sort of like run of quests they do, and then they kind of mix it up for Ravenloft 2.0, still second edition, but mix it up for Ravenloft 2.0. So let's fold that up. What we got next? And then these are the Floating Islands of Terror. So these are all little Ravenloft domains, but none of them are actually connected to the main continent. But that doesn't mean they can't be. It just means they're not permanently attached, because actually one can walk through the fog. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way. One can walk off the domain into the fog and come out the other side, because that's how the mists and the fogs of Ravenloft work. Or they can walk out and then walk over here, or walk out and walk back into the prime material plane if they're really lucky. And then that's two more of them. So again, beautiful maps. And then here we have, I think these are going to be like some of the towns. Yes, here we go. Nope, upside down. So what we got? So we got a mixture of the towns from the various different domains. And I think that one's a bit Venice-like from what I remember. There's the most famous of them all, Barvovia. And Castle Ravenloft sitting above it. Mordantshire, where the house on Griffin Hill is. And I want to say very ghost-filled from what I remember. And then looking at the last one, what have we got here? So, oh, some more of them. So I must say, they don't make them like they used to. So this is all they did for 3rd edition. Actually, that's a lie. This is all that Wizards did for 3rd edition. Somebody else made some of the other books. So that's the Castle Ravenloft book. And then you've got another Ravenloft book plus Van Richken's guide for the current edition, 5th. But the realms, when played properly, it can be absolutely terrifying. The stories can be epic, filled with betrayal and horror, and I really like a mystery campaign, but I just think they don't do it justice now. But this box set, absolutely brilliant and worth every penny back in the 90s, and it probably didn't cost much more than a tenner. Thank you very much for looking. Take care.